everyone, and welcome to Past Blast. This channel is going to focus on accurate historical content in an entertaining but accurate way. Thank you for coming along for the ride. In today's episode, we're going to talk about the Forgotten Inferno, the true story of the Sultana, which was America's deadliest maritime disaster. It was the early hours of April 27th, 1865. The Mississippi River shimmered under a moonlit sky near Memphis. A paddle wheel steamboat named Sultana drifted slowly north, overloaded with weary Union soldiers finally heading home after the Civil War's end. They were young, broken, scarred, but alive. What they didn't know that was within hours, their dreams of returning home would go up in a fireball so massive it would light up the night sky and take more lives than the Titanic. And yet, you've probably never heard of it. This is the haunting, nearly forgotten story of Sultana, America's deadliest maritime disaster. The Sultana was a side wheel steamer built in 1863. It was sleek, tall, and elegant. She stretched 260 feet long and was powered by four interconnected boilers, licensed to carry 376 passengers. She became a floating workhorse during the Civil War, transporting troops, prisoners, and supplies all along the Mississippi. But after the war ended in 1865 in April, business for steamboats slowed. Then came an opportunity, a lucrative government contract. $5 for every enlisted man, $10 for every officer transported home. And with thousands of recently freed Union POWs waiting to return north from the Confederate camps, greed soon took the wheel. Over 2,100 soldiers, most former prisoners from the infamous Andersonville and Kahana prison camps, were loaded into the Sultana in Vicksburg, Mississippi. Starved, sick, and diseased, they carried typhoid, dysentery, festering wounds, and unimaginable trauma. Some were barefoot, others had no shirts. Many clutched their army-issued pay finally in the hands, dreaming of using it to rebuild their lives. They were crammed into every surface: cabins, decks, railings, even the paddle wheel covers. Eyewitnesses said it looked like the boat was wearing a coat of blue. Sultana was designed for less than 400 passengers, but she carried more than 2,300 people that night. To make matters worse, just before departure, one of Sultana's boilers had been leaking. The captain, J. Cass Mason, was warned, but instead of replacing it, a hasty patch was made, using a method so poor it wouldn't hold up to pressure for long. So why the rush? Because the system was already behind schedule, and there was money to be made. Delaying the voyage would mean losing passengers and the potential of losing thousands of dollars. So with a damaged boiler, an illegal overload of passengers, and a swollen, fast-moving river, Sultana steamed north towards her fate. At 2 a.m. on April 27th, 7 miles north of Memphis, it happened. A thunderous explosion ripped through the night, one boiler, then two, then the others. The center of the ship blew sky high. hurling iron, timber, and human bodies into the black sky. Fire spread instantly, fed by coal, dry wood, and oak-soaked decks. Oil soaking the decks created massive mischief. Screams of agony filled the air. Men were flung hundreds of feet into the frigid river. Others burned alive, trapped in twisted metal and flame. There were no lifeboats, no safety drills, just panic, chaos, and water that meant hypothermia for the already weak. The Mississippi became a floating graveyard. Many of the soldiers, already frail from starvation, they couldn't swim. They clung to drifting planks, bodies, anything they could find. Some drowned minutes after the blast, others succumbed to cold and exhaustion. A few floated for hours, but they were numb, silent, hoping help would come. Meanwhile, Memphis residents saw the flames and heard the blast. Civilian boats, locals, and Union soldiers at nearby camps launched a desperate rescue effort. They pulled dozens, then hundreds from the water, but it wasn't enough. Over 1,200 people died that night. More than who died at the Titanic. And most of them were survivors of a war who never made it home. The wreckage smoldered for days. The riverbanks littered with scorched uniforms and shattered lives. Families waited at train stations and homesteads, only to be told their sons had died after the war had ended. And yet, there were no national headlines. Why? Because just hours before the Sultana exploded, America's biggest news was the assassination of President Lincoln and the manhunt for John Wilkes Booth. Booth was killed on April 26th. By April 27th, Sultana was just a footnote. No one was held truly accountable. The captain did die in the explosion, but the military quietly closed the investigation. Survivors, if they ever spoke, were ignored. This wasn't just a tragedy, it was a betrayal. Thousands of brave soldiers fought for years, endured prison, illness, and starvation, only to die because of greed and negligence. And history forgot them. No movie, no national monument, just a modest memorial in Knoxville, Tennessee, where many of the victims were from. The story of the Sultana is a haunting reminder that even in peace, war shadows linger, that behind every statistic is a mother's cry, a wife's sorrow, a child's question. Why didn't he come home? Today, the muddy waters of the Mississippi still flow quietly over the wreck of the Sultana. Her bones lie buried beneath silt and time. But stories like these are not meant to be forgotten. If you found this story moving, share it. Speak their names. Honor their memory. Because history isn't just what we remember, it's also what we choose to forget. This has been Past Blast. Don't just learn history, feel it. Thank you.